Good evening, everyone. We're live on T-Baytel, Shaw Cable, and ISI. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Clerk Power. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our virtual town hall chaired by Councillor Bentz. That's the pre-budget for 2022. I'm going to do some brief introductions, and then I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Bentz to speak a little bit about what's happening here tonight. And also, at the end of the presentation, we will have a presentation with about 18 slides, I think. After the presentation, there will be a Q&A session. We do have some questions that have been emailed in to us, but if viewers wish to propose a question during the presentation on anything that you see in the presentation or anything that may be budget related, you can see on the screen here, call 625-2230. Someone will answer the phone, or send an email into that email address there, and someone is watching and will receive that email. And we'll get as many questions in as we can. So that's for tonight. And with that, may I hand it over to the chair, Councillor Bentz. Please, Councillor Bentz.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to have all of you that are tuning in with us tonight. Tonight's presentation is really to give you some background information, to talk a little bit about where we're heading in 2022, and to primarily ask you for your feedback. We want you to share your feedback. We have a pre-budget survey that is out. It's online at www.thunderbay.ca/get-involved. So if you want to fill it out online, you can. There was also a printed copy that was in the source on June the 10th. So you can give us your feedback that way. And completed surveys can be submitted online, mailed to City Hall, or dropped off at any branch of the library by June 29th. So all comments that we receive are summarized and are given to councillors as they go through the budget. So it's an important thing for you to take part in, and we really do want to invite you to do that. It is important. We do read them, we do listen, and we try to meet the needs of the community. And the more we know about those needs, the better we can do. We are heading into giving, at our next meeting, we're going to be giving administration direction on the budget. That's council will do that as a whole. We haven't done that as of yet, whether it'll be status quo or 2%, 3%, whatever. But those will be decided, oh, pardon me, not in our next meeting, in July 26th, my mistake. So towards the end of July, we'll be giving that feedback to our administration. And as you know, last year, council directed administration to exclude all COVID-19 financial impacts from the tax levy. And we did that for a reason. We viewed them as one-time costs. And typically, you don't want to build one-time costs into your budget, because those carry forward into future years. So we were dealing with these through the stabilization reserve and or grants from the provincial and federal governments. And we did pretty well, as most communities did, in terms of getting grant money to help municipalities cover these costs, because they were significant. We may consider to do the same thing in 2022. We may want to break out the COVID costs, because most people think that the impacts will continue into 2022 in terms of reduced revenues, et cetera. It could be a lot of different factors, but COVID-19 is probably going to extend into the next budget. As always, I'd like to inform the public about aspects of our budget that may not be obvious, and one of them has to do with our capital expenses, and that deals with infrastructure. And we call it the infrastructure gap or the infrastructure deficit, and it is an estimated shortfall in existing budgets to cover infrastructure life cycle costs and replacement. What that means is, does the budget have enough money in it to pay for things that are required as they come to end of life? Are there things that we need to maintain? So it's not just replacement, it's maintenance. And we have two figures that we reference, and they're continuously being refined as we move forward, because it's important to the province that we come up with a plan to deal with these things. As you might expect, if you own a home and you don't maintain it, it gets very expensive to own the home after a while. So we tend to want to get to a place where we're addressing these infrastructure gaps. We have a tax supported gap, and this includes infrastructure supported by the tax levy. There's two kinds of ways that we run the business, so to speak. We have tax supported, which is supported off the tax levy, and we have rate supported, which is supported off of your bills, your water bill, the amount you pay when you go to the landfill. These are rate supported businesses, the water and the landfill primarily. So in the tax supported side, that we're at the point where we think it's greater than $20 million, and that's an annual figure. This will impact upkeep and replacement. And so long as we have that gap, we're going to be behind the 8 ball a little bit. On the rate supported side, as I mentioned, this is water, wastewater, and landfill. That infrastructure gap is reported to be greater than $7 million annually. So these are significant numbers, and Thunder Bay is not alone in this. It's been a struggle for all municipalities and all governments, the provincial and federal government as well. Have difficulties with maintaining the infrastructure that they create. So it's important we keep our eye on that ball. So budgetary challenges that we have moving into the budget. We have continued COVID-related challenges, as you might imagine. Things are getting much better. As you know, we're ahead of where we thought we would be in vaccines, and things are looking very, very bright. I think we're all very pleased about that. But as we move forward, we could continue to have reduced revenues from program and services because the uptake on those may not be as great as they once were. So it's very hard for us to plan for that. So reduced revenues could be a problem for us. Increased costs for personal protection equipment and cleaning, that is a cost we bear. And timing of provincially mandated staged openings. Let's hope we continue to a quick reopening and it's very successful, and we can all get back to the way we were as soon as possible, so businesses aren't suffering. But these things are things that we have to deal with as a corporation as well. Continued shift of the tax levy onto the residential base. That is another challenge that we face in our budgets. The contraction of our industrial base over the past number of decades has been quite shocking. A number of us, well, most of us can remember all the paper mills and sawmills that used to exist here. These were big industrial bases. Now, as they've disappeared, those revenues have disappeared. Now, the services haven't disappeared. So how are we going to fund those services that people have gotten so used to and want? Well, the residential base has to pick up that slack, if you will. So that is a challenge for us. We have residential ratepayers who are feeling pretty stretched, and we have to shift these costs onto that tax base because it is our largest single tax base right now is the residential. We have had recent tax policy approval at council that will mitigate some of this shift, so that's good news. And as we continue to try to diversify our economy and the mining sector picks up, that will, of course, help our commercial tax base, and maybe we can stop the shift onto the residential base that we've been seeing over the past number of years. We do have continued pressure on the tax levy to fund new infrastructure. As you know, the indoor turf facility was on one of those pressures. It still may be. It depends what council decides and what kind of expressions of interest we get. We have redevelopment of Victoriaville. So that, and the corridor itself, that's going to be, significant money, 10 million or more. The police station is something that is going to be requested of council to endorse for the 2022 budget. That is approximately $60 million. And the art gallery contribution. I think council made a contribution of $5 million, and then land redevelopment and not reappropriation. I can't think of the correct word. Anyways, the lands there have to be something. I can't think of the word. Mr. Gale, can you think of the right word I'm thinking for?
Not sure. I bet you it's Ken.
It's not important. We have to fix up the lands that are there. I can't think of the technical term at the moment. It's unimportant, but that's going to be about $2 million. And so we have pressures on the budget. And of course, the conservatory was just also endorsed by council. That is going to be on the order, I think, on the order of $4 million. But all these things we're looking for funding for, we're trying to reduce the impact on the budget as best we can. And of course, lastly, that ties back into the infrastructure gap. We have to find a way to pay for this. I mean, if we're short $20–30 million in the budget for life cycle costs, eventually we have to come to terms with that. The province has asked us to refine our numbers and to start looking towards solving this in form of legislation. And I believe by 2024, we have to have some numbers in place and start thinking about how we're going to finance this. So these are all pressures on the budget. And we work hard to try and balance the needs. And that's really what the budget's about. And the budget, it belongs to you, the people. We try and set a budget that reflects the needs of the community. And that's why we ask for your input. So thank you for your time. I believe I'm turning it back to Mr. Gale now for the rest of the slides until Miss Evans is up.
Yes, thank you, Chair Benson. Was your word rehabilitate?
Rehabilitation, yes.
There you go.
It was one of those words.
Right on. Thanks very much. So the City of Thunder Bay's budgets, plural, are quite complex, but the idea behind a budget is really rather simple. Simply a numeric expression of council's priorities, goals, objectives, and approved programs, which you see on the screen here. This is how council sets their priorities. The budget is, along with the strategic plan, are the two most important documents that council wrestles with and finalizes. In the strategic plan, you will see an expression of council's vision and what they want to achieve. In the budget, you will see an expression of council's priorities and how they prioritize and how they make decisions on how much money is collected in revenue and how much money is spent in expenditure. An important rule about municipal budgets in Ontario is that they must be balanced. While we can take on debt, that debt servicing charges and costs must be included in the respective operating or rate budgets. So we must be able to manage and handle the debt. We cannot just simply borrow money to fund operating or anything else without having a plan on paying that back. So the budget has to be balanced. If you could consider the City of Thunder Bay's budget in sort of two areas. First is the tax supported budget. That's the larger portion of our overall budget, and that is funded by taxation. There are other sources of revenue that help out with the tax supported budget, but it's largely paid by taxation. And these are services that are not fully funded by user fees. You can see on the slide examples of those services. Second type of budget is the rate supported budget. Those include services that are funded 100% by the users of that service. For example, the marina, the boater services down at Prince Arthur's Landing, that is funded by the users or the people who have slips or docks in that marina. In the past 10 years, you see a chart here that shows the change, or sorry, the increases in the municipal tax levy year over year. People might recall that before growth, last year, the increase was 1.83%, and after growth or net of growth, 1.60%. The difference is between before growth or net of growth is that the city's tax base grows every year. Now, clearly, on a relative basis, our tax base has been growing quite slowly in the past few years, but growing nonetheless. Those are new taxpayers that add into the tax base. So before growth, the increase includes the revenue from the new taxpayers. If the net of growth, if you exclude the new taxpayers and you do a year-by-year comparison, you see the increase show differently. And in this case, 1.60 last year. In the past 10 years, before growth, 3.1%, and after growth, 2.31%. Also here, and you see on your TV tonight, is our General Manager of Corporate Services and Long-Term Care and the City Treasurer, Linda Evans. Ms. Evans and her team are here, and Ms. Evans will walk us through the next set of slides. Ms. Evans, to you, please.
Thank you. So the next few slides, we're going to use the 2021 budget information to outline to people how the operating and capital budgets are allocated to city departments and outside boards and agencies. So this chart indicates how the gross operating budget of $316 million was allocated in 2021. Development and Emergency Services and Community Services departments take the largest portion of the budget at 20% and 19%, with the next largest component being for the Thunder Bay Police Service at 17%. General corporate expenditures include debenture debt charges, insurance and legal costs, tax write-offs, and other general financial expenditures, including wage contingency expenses established for employee contracts under negotiation during the year. Also included in other general corporate expenditures are corporate WSIB costs and costs related to council's strategic initiatives like poverty reduction or age-friendly. This expense line was especially high in the 2021 budget as the majority of employee contracts were or continue to be under negotiation, and the city's insurance premiums increased $1 million over the prior year. Other outside boards include the Thunder Bay District Health Unit, Thunder Bay Public Library, the Lakehead Regional Conservation Authority, the Parking Authority, the Community Economic Development Commission, Victoriaville, and the various business improvement areas. So this chart shows how the 2021 gross tax supported capital budget of $50.5 million is broken down between departments and outside boards again. As would be expected, infrastructure and operations is by far the largest at 54%, followed by community services at 27%. The 2021 gross capital budget increased $3.9 million or 8% over 2020. This graphic shows the different types of revenues used to fund the $362 million tax-supported combined operating and capital budget. Taxation is the largest piece. However, you can see the city also budgeted to receive 21% of our revenue in provincial and federal grants. User fees are budgeted at about 6.5%, and the T-Baytel dividend represents 5%. Other revenues include contributions from the casino, penalties and interests, license and permits, rents and concessions, investment incomes, and transfers from reserve funds. The impact of COVID-19 has reduced revenues in a number of areas, including user fees, casino revenues, and of course, the municipal accommodation tax. For example, in a typical year, we see user fees representing about 8% of our total revenues. And in 2021, the user fees will, as indicated, represent only about 6.5% as a result of COVID implications and closures. This slide shows the breakdown, and we often reflect this in our presentations of how $1,000 in a municipal tax levy is spent on the various services and expenditures using, again, the 2021 budget information. Public safety and public works, the top two bars in the chart, make up roughly 55% of the total. And the focus on these two items is consistent with the Ipsos Reid 2019 Citizen Survey, which indicates that residents place the highest importance on emergency services, street maintenance, and snow removal in the tax-supported budget. This survey is planned to occur again in 2022 and will be conducted every 2 years thereafter. Now we'll look at debenture balances for the city. So this slide provides a breakdown of debt balances for the years 2019, 2020, and projected for the 2021 year end, broken out by tax supported, rate supported, and TBTL. Tax supported debt balances will decrease, as will waterworks and TBTL debt levels by the end of 2021. The debenture balances for wastewater and solid waste will increase to finance activities in accordance with approved financial plans. Total projected outstanding debt at December 2020 will be approximately $209 million, a decrease of $3.5 million from the prior year as a result of no planned new special debentures in 2021. Debenture financing is an important component of the city's capital program. The city monitors and limits borrowing based on the metrics outlined in the city's approved debt management strategy. So this next slide provides additional information about that 69.5 million. Actually, Stacey, if you could just flip back to the previous chart. So just wanted to sort of kind of hone in on that 69.47 million that we have in tax supported at the end of 2020. So the next slide, which I'll ask you to flip to, thank you. This is additional information about that 69.5 that was outstanding at the end of 2020. So the debentures included in that 69.5 million that will be maturing in the next 5 years are noted in the top section of this chart. And those maturing beyond 5 years are also noted. Maturing means that payments of principal and interest on the debt will be complete. There are 4 debentures, specifically the homes debt from 2003, debt taken to finance Junot Avenue work referenced in the chart as Junot 2A and 2B, work that was in 2016, and the EMS satellite station debenture also taken out in 2016 that will be maturing between now and 2025. These maturities will result in a decrease of 16.1 million in tax supported debt that existed at the end of 2020. As noted, the 2003 $45 million debenture that has an annual principal and interest of 3.9 million is maturing in 2023. By the end of 2025, as noted, almost 5 million of debt servicing costs will no longer be required and can be considered for capital funding by council in future annual budgets. The majority of that 5 million or 4.974 noted represented by that homes debenture maturing in 2023. Reserve funds are an important component of the city's financial planning, providing financial flexibility and the ability to adapt to fiscal challenges and unexpected events. Reserve funds also aid in planning for future requirements, both capital and operating. As we managed the city's operations during the pandemic, healthy reserve fund balances have never been more important. In addition to assisting in managing fiscal challenges, reserve funds are used for other reasons, including those listed. The estimated uncommitted reserve funds the city will have at the end of the current year is $98 million in tax-supported reserves and $25 million in rate-supported reserve funds. It is anticipated, as noted by Councillor Bentz, that COVID-19 impacts will continue into 2022. Work is currently underway by administration to review current year implications to help inform the 2022 operating budget. The impact of COVID-19 was excluded, again, as mentioned earlier by Councillor Bentz, was excluded from the 2021 tax levy. The COVID-19 was budgeted to be funded by the Stabilization Reserve Fund. This chart summarizes the updated projected COVID-19 2021 impact and estimated transfer that we are estimating will be required from the Stabilization Reserve Fund. So at Q1, the 2021 COVID impact is estimated at $5.4 million, which will be reduced by $4.3 million of 2020 Safe Restart funding that's available to be carried forward and used in 2021, reducing the amount that we need from the Stabilization Reserve Fund to $1.1 million. And as noted, the next update to Council will be provided in the budget variance report coming next month. The 2022 budget will incorporate factors including an estimated increase of $830,000 to the Thunder Bay District Health Unit levy related to changes in provincial funding for the health unit, which will result in an increase in the levy the city will pay. This was actually reduced from an estimated $1.2 million based on most recent information we've received from the health unit. The province has not yet announced the city's Ontario Municipal Partnership Funding Grant, but that is expected to be remaining stable. And the city will again receive a dividend from Synergy North. This is the merger savings dividend in 2022 and is expected to continue into 2023. The 2022 capital budget envelope will include a $2.8 million one-time increase from the General Capital Reserve Fund, and this is related to the 2020 year-end surplus that was approved by Council a few weeks ago. And of course, there will be financial implications related to the implementation of the program and service review recommendations, including implementation of our digital strategy and our human resources recruitment process review project. And now I'll turn it back over to City Manager Gale.
Thank you, Treasurer Evans. So you'll see a list of dates here for when people can have their say on virtual opportunities, and we'll see what happens with the pandemic as it plays out. You see the dates up there. The first one, of course, is tonight. There will be a public pre-budget deputation meeting on January 13th, 2022, and in the post-budget deputation meeting on February 3rd, 2022. Details will be announced. We'll see what formats those will be in. For the budget process itself, there are several key budget dates. If you're interested in how it plays out, you can see the dates there. So I'm not going to go through all the dates, but the budget that we propose to City Council that will be in line with City Council direction provided to us this summer will be available to the public on January 4th, 2022 in the usual way. And that is, it'll be accessible online and will also be available at the Waverley or Brodie libraries, again, dependent on public health prescriptions. And council deliberations are scheduled for 4 nights, January 18, 20, 26, and February 1st. And we're scheduled to have the budget approval after council deliberations for February 7th. So thank you, Ms. Evans and Chair Bentz. And what we can do now is we can go to questions or Q&A. And we have members of administration here to respond to questions. We also have Director Westover here, who's going to read out the questions that were pre-submitted. We'll find out who's answering those questions, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm looking. Okay, everybody good? Director Westover, please, the first question.
Thank you, City Manager Gale. So I will be reading, we currently have 5 questions that were submitted in advance, and I will be reading them verbatim. So the first question, I wonder if under emergency services preparedness, is there a budget line for interagency training, including drills and practices for first responders? I have been researching our preparedness for nuclear accidents related to transport, and while I did find manuals online, couldn't find any real evidence of local training. I see trucks carrying nuclear materials on the highway. Further, the disasters such as Lac Megantic and the rail car that went off the tracks into McVicker Creek makes one wonder about our emergency preparedness, especially the immediate coordinated command response that would be required. It's okay to have it in a computer somewhere, but the actual training, drills, and exercises needed to deploy immediately. Expense-wise, as a taxpayer, the federal government and the carriers should be paying more for this type of training, especially a nuclear or chemical accident for which I suspect we are ill-prepared.
Thank you. So I see Chief Hankio has popped up there. I just want to let everyone know we also have General Manager Lewis. I saw Deputy Chief Katikoff, and we have Chief Hoth here as well. If necessary, but let's go to you, Chief Hankio, and see. Well, I know you'll have the answer. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, City Manager Gale, and thank you for the question. And a good question and a lengthy question. So I'll try and answer it to the best of my ability here. So what I can say is that all 3 emergency services clearly have budgets for annual training. And I mean, this training not only includes service-specific training, but it can be used as well for corporate emergency exercises. And it has typically, as we're mandated through the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, to conduct annual emergency exercises. And these exercises typically vary from year to year. They can include anything from weather-related events to natural disasters, and may also include hazardous materials or nuclear emergencies. Now, the other important piece to remember here, I think, is that the city's 3 emergency services work collaboratively and respond together on a daily basis. Based on our specific legislation, response capabilities, we're well informed of each other's capabilities, and we will respond and react to an emergency in a unified command capacity if necessary, and we have clearly completed that in the past and been successful with it. More specific to Thunder Bay Fire Rescue and the nuclear aspect or hazardous materials aspect, Thunder Bay is home to one of 5 hazardous materials response teams, provincial response teams. So with the exception, I would say, of Toronto and Ottawa, we're probably one of the most highly trained hazardous materials response departments in the province of Ontario. And we do receive funding from the provincial government through a memorandum of understanding to the tune of $150,000 a year for this specific type of training. So we are well equipped to respond, to hazardous materials and or a nuclear event. And we are well equipped to respond in cooperation with the other response agencies as well. On the emergency management side of things, what I can say is that, in keeping with continuous improvement and the concept of continuous improvement, as we implement the direction of council through the Strategic Master Fire Plan, I anticipate, and the goal would be, that the general aspect of emergency management will form part of a larger discussion down the road. So I would defer to Chief Gates or Chief Hott for any further input, but I believe we are well equipped to respond as a municipality.
Oh, I think you're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry, there we go. I did it. Thank you, Chief Hankio. And I didn't know if Chief Gates was here or not, but I saw Deputy Chief Katikoff. And if any of the chiefs want to add in, that would be fine, or not, that would be fine as well. Okay, Director Westover, back to you.
All right, thank you. So the second question, the question I have to Mr. Gale and each of you is why the City of Thunder Bay's staffing levels and city payroll are so much higher than other cities in the province. Our population of just 109,000 is the smallest in this study, but Thunder Bay's Sunshine List on average was approximately $44 million higher than cities with populations of over 100,000 and less than 150,000. These cities included St. Catharines, Milton, Cambridge, Guelph, Kingston, Waterloo, Ajax, Whitby, Chatham-Kent. Our Sunshine List cost city taxpayers $71 million. The other 9 cities' average cost to support their Sunshine List was only $27 million, $44 million less. The City of Thunder Bay total number of employees, 2,800 full and part-time, is also more than double most of these other cities. Our Sunshine List had 559 city employees, making an average of $127,000. The other cities in the study had an average of just 270 city employees on their Sunshine List, 342 less than Thunder Bay's total. Per capita, Thunder Bay has one of the highest payrolls and total number of employees in the entire province. Is this the reason our taxes are so high and there's little money left over to maintain existing infrastructure? What steps have been put in place to control the city's staffing levels?
Okay, thank you. I'll respond to the question. So there's a lot there. So a couple things. We need to talk about the premises and the analysis in the question. But first of all, are staffing levels a reason for taxation levels? Yes, absolutely. It's one of the reasons, and it does matter because we have to pay for people to work here. Secondly, the City Council is increasing infrastructure.
Today said that 22 cases of this Delta Plus variant, as it's called, have now been detected in the country. That's still a very low number.
Okay, thank you. So Thunder Bay City Council is increasing infrastructure spending against the operating budget and has a commitment to continue to do that. I don't know whether the analysis made by the questioner is correct. I have no quibble. I neither argue for or against what the questioner is saying, as well as the qualitative statements about taxes being too high and that kind of thing. That's for the questioner. And in my answering the question, I offer no comment on that. But I will say this, the comparators are problematic. The cities cited, I think there's about 8 of them, 7 of 8, let's call it that. But there's one exception, are what you call, or what are referred to in Ontario as lower tier municipalities. This is important. There are 3 tiers of municipalities in Ontario. There are lower tiers and there are upper tiers. The lower tiers deliver a set of services and the upper tiers deliver a set of services. This is by legislation. The lower tiers deliver services like fire services. They deliver services like roads, that kind of thing, community recreation and culture. Upper tiers deliver another set of services, police services, public health services, paramedic services, and there are some services that are combined or split amongst the municipalities. And this is why comparisons like this are very problematic. Even though these municipalities are all along the same population, that is not the measurement by which we should be comparing each other. The third tier of municipalities is single tier, and Thunder Bay is a single tier. Now, single tiers, like Thunder Bay, are actually quite rare in the province. And what a single tier is or means is that a single tier municipality delivers the services of a lower tier and they deliver the services of an upper tier combined, which means a single tier municipality delivers far more services than a lower tier or an upper tier. Again, in this comparison analysis, most of the municipalities were lower tiers. So the comparison is not apples to oranges. Secondly, one municipality in that comparison is a single tier, that's Chatham-Kent. But Chatham-Kent is a very different municipality than Thunder Bay that delivers a very different suite of services at different levels. Chatham-Kent is largely rural. Okay, they have a city or two. They've got St. Thomas, I think is about 30,000. I'm not sure, I haven't looked, but about that size. But a large swath of people spread out in a rural area like a county, which is what it is. So they deliver a different suite of services at different levels again. So when you compare Thunder Bay to these other municipalities, you need to be careful about what you're comparing. Second point is about the sunshine list. Again, I did not confirm or verify the analysis made by the questioner, but Thunder Bay's numbers, or let's talk about the sunshine list first, is dominated by emergency services. And Thunder Bay, as a single tier, delivers all three emergency services. Lower tiers deliver one, upper tiers deliver two. Single tiers deliver three. So you have a sunshine list that is dominated by emergency services, and Thunder Bay delivers all three emergency services. So when compared against lower tiers and upper tiers, of course, we're going to have more employees on the list. Secondly, we know because of our deployment that Thunder Bay Fire and Rescue has more firefighters per capita than other municipalities, very high, but the same applies for police and the same applies for EMS. In fact, for paramedic services, we have on our payroll paramedics that are delivering services in the district, Nipigon, Marathon, Greenstone, and the like. So that's kind of like a double hit. You have all these emergency services workers who are well paid, and a lot of them are on the sunshine list. And because we deliver all three emergency services, we have a larger number of people on the sunshine list. As to staffing in general, which I know the writer did not comment about, but for paramedic services and police services, city staffing levels have remained stable for the past 6 or 10 years with no real increases or decreases. And finally, when it comes to the tax base, the tax rate is not the same as the taxation that homeowners or residents pay. Thunder Bay does have the second highest tax rate in the province, but Thunder Bay demonstrably does not have the second highest level of taxation in the province. There's a complicated formula. Well, it's not actually not complicated. There's a formula behind this that sets the taxation levels, and council will make a series of decisions when it comes to taxation levels. One more point, and that is the shifting to the residential class, which Chair Bentz commented on earlier. Thunder Bay is disproportionately overrepresented against those other cities when it comes to the proportion of property taxes paid by the residential class. Therefore, homeowners in Thunder Bay see increased pressure against those other municipalities. Okay, there was a lot in the question, and there was a lot there in my answer. I'll stop there and back to you, Director Westover.
Okay, thank you. So our third question, my question is simple. Why do the taxes I pay not reflect the services I receive? I live on Government Road between Maple Ward and Town Line. We have no city water, sewage, sidewalks, street lighting, and live on a poorly maintained gravel road, yet pay a premium in city taxes. My primary concern is the gravel road. We have numerous young families that use this road every day, whether it be walking or riding bicycles. Recently, myself and my 18-month twins proactively went into the ditch to avoid being hit by a vehicle that couldn't see us due to the amount of dust. I understand putting calcium treatment on the gravel keeps the dust down, but this near miss would have never occurred if we had a paved or chip sealed road. I realize there are costs involved preparing and paving a road, but what I pay in taxes justifies a safe roadway that the majority of city residents already have. If safe paved road isn't an option, a reduction in city taxes relative to the services we receive is. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so I see that Director Dixon is ready to go. We also have Director Cannon. You came up, Director Dixon, would you like to start? And maybe we'll go to Director Cannon as well, but you go ahead if you want. And there's Director Cannon. Who's going to go first?
Certainly I can start, and then I'm sure that finance will have some more input on this. So just looking at the roads maintenance. So within the roads maintenance objectives, there are 22 service levels for roads maintenance. This indicates the type and frequency of service that's provided on municipal roadways. And these were just originally updated in 2016 with council's approval. So of the 22 service levels that were identified, 10 of those are directly applicable to the gravel section of government road. So this would include gravel surface maintenance, base repairs, bridge maintenance. There's culvert maintenance as well, debris pickup, ditching, guide rails, sign maintenance, as well as sightline cutting, which would be the brushing along the side of the roads and at intersections, as well as, of course, winter operations. And in addition, tax dollars are also applied to all of the other roads within the municipality that those residents would use. So, for example, when they're driving into town on Dawson Road or Maple Ward Road or onto the Harbour Expressway, etc. So as far as the calcium applications, so included in the roads maintenance objective for dust suppression is a single application each year on our gravel roads. And this level of service was adjusted by council during the 2021 budget deliberations, and an additional application of that dust suppressant will be included on certain roads, including Government Road this year. As far as the actual capital renewal and surface treatment of that road, so council has provided direction to include $150,000 annually in the budget for surface treatment, and that started in 2016. And that amount of money will complete about 2 kilometers of surface treatment, and that's if no additional improvements to the road are needed, like base improvements or drainage improvements. So engineering has provided a cost of approximately $600,000 in order to surface treat Government Road. And that work also includes significant ditching, culverts, grading, as well as the actual surface treatment of the road. So if you do the math, that's about 4 years worth of the surface treatment budget. And this budget also is needed to fund the recurring applications of surface treatment on the existing surface treated roads within the city. Right now, the proposed locations for surface treatment in the forecast include the next section, the final section of Melbourne Road. So we've been working on Melbourne Road for the last couple seasons to complete that corridor, as well as Alice Avenue and Goreville Road. So these roads have been targeted because they have good base and require limited additional improvements before the surface treatment is applied. So that's some information about the maintenance and capital costs, and I will pass it off to Director Cannon for any other information the finance can provide on the calculations of taxes or the taxation policy, etc.
Yeah, thank you, Director Dixon. And Director Cannon, perhaps you could comment on the exchange between paying taxes and services received, the premise of the question.
Certainly, thank you. Yes, so the property tax system is structured so that property owners pay taxes based on the value of their property, not the services that they use. The city does levy costs associated with certain special services, and those are towards designated areas of the municipality in which those property owners receive an additional benefit from the special service. So that includes storm sewers, land drainage, street lighting, and transit, for example. All other city services are included in the general tax levy, and all property owners pay their share based on the property value. Specific to the question, the property owner had identified that they live on Government Road. and that they don't have city water and sewage. So they wouldn't receive a water bill because those services are on the water bill. They also are not charged the special area rates for streetlights, transit, and sewers and land drainage on their tax bill.
Yeah, property taxes are not quid pro quo. One example, one way to think about this is with emergency services. A property owner may not draw a response from any emergency services in a particular year, yet a very large portion of their taxation goes towards funding those emergency services. Concurrently, that property owner will benefit from emergency services being present, even though they haven't actually drawn or called 911 themselves. And that, that applies to other services as well. Okay, thank you to you both. Director Westover, back to you, please.
Thank you. So our fourth question. I have been a tax-paying resident of Thunder Bay for 40 years, the last 9 years as a resident on Granite Road. I have attended town hall meetings where residents in this area, including me, have begged for some kind of surfacing on our roads. We were promised action would be taken soon. That was 5 or 6 years ago. My taxes are well over $6,000 per year. I live on a road in city limits that is dirt. My car is always muddy, my windows dirty, my outdoor furniture covered in dust. Pools are filthy. My question, when will the city act responsibly and respectfully to taxpayers in the North McIntyre area and pave or chip seal the roads? This is long overdue. I hope you will consider my plea and not continue to dismiss this responsibility. Thank you.
Director Dixon, you're lined up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. So very similar to the response that was provided for Government Road. Granite Road is a low volume road, so it doesn't actually require surface treatment as a wearing surface. And over the life of the road, it will actually cost more to maintain a surface treatment than a gravel surface where the traffic doesn't warrant that additional wearing surface. So that's important to consider. And then again, council has provided direction to include the $150,000 in our annual capital budget for surface treatment. Right now, engineering is prioritizing roads that have good base and good drainage. And we do have the 3 sections of road in the forecast that I've indicated. Granite Road certainly is considered in this program as that program continues, and we will work that into the forecast as we can.
Very good. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
All right, this is the last question we have. At this point, I've not seen any coming in live, so this is our final pre-submitted question. Why are we not prioritizing where our money is being spent? And that's the
okay.
question.
I'll start, and maybe Councillor Bentz, or sorry, Chair Bentz might want to comment on that. But if it's okay, I'll start. As I think City Council and the city are prioritizing where the money is spent. They do that when they iterate their goals and their vision in the strategic plan, and they do it every year in the budget. The budget is very specific, and it identifies the priorities of City Council. And there's many deliberations at council and work by administration behind those priorities. Chair Bentz, would it be too bold of me to go to you for a moment if you wanted to comment?
I'd be happy to comment. The budget is our opportunity to prioritize our goals and what we'd like administration to focus on over the coming year. And we do that, in the hopes that the community is engaging and giving us feedback. And keep in mind that in a community of 110,000, there's going to be all sorts of different priorities that people are going to have at the top and at the bottom. And it's council's job to try and vet all these priorities that the community has in the right order. And it's not an easy job, and you can't make everyone happy, but we do work hard to make priorities and to set goals and to move the community forward. But I can appreciate that not everyone's priorities are addressed in a budget, and it can be frustrating. But, that's when we want you to reach out and communicate with us.
Thank you. Director Westover, do we have any more questions?
I just got an email that there is somebody on the phone right now, so it just may be a moment before the question makes its way upstairs to me.
So Chair Bentz, I think we committed to 7:30, so we should stay here, and we could hold. Did you want? We'll just wait for that question. Be up here momentarily, and Chair Bentz will just hand it back to you for a moment if you wish.
Yeah, so I mean, when we're waiting for that question, what I was going to say in closing is that, take the time to do the pre-budget survey if you feel your priorities aren't being met. This is a chance for you to put your priorities down. And when the budget is being debated come this January, feel free to engage. Hopefully you're keeping track of what we're doing, what we're discussing on those nights, what the issues are. And always feel free to reach out to your counselor and your at-large counselors to discuss your issues, your concerns. That's what we're here to do. We're here to listen and to bring your concerns to the table so that you're heard. We represent you at the budget table. So I would just encourage you to stay engaged in this matter. I know there's many more things that grab your attention, but try and stay engaged in the civics of the community here, and things will go a lot smoother for us all, I think, if we have an engaged public.
Very good. How are we doing for that question?
I have not gotten it yet. Just got the email saying that a call just came through. I imagine it's just taking a little bit of time to get it down. And
so we are going to stay. Yeah. We're going to stay here until we get that question.
No, we've got it.
Okay.
So the question is, why do we have 306 managerial staff? Would a staffing audit not be a fair way of determining the city's need for 2,800 full and part-time employees?
Yeah. So I'm not. I'll answer the question. Thank you. So I'm not sure about that number that's cited in the questionnaire. It depends on what's being counted as management. So we have different levels and different types of work. So it depends on what's being counted. And it also depends on the base, how you count the base. Part-time, full-time, non-affiliate, casual, that kind of thing. So ratios are very difficult when it comes to management and frontline workers in an organization like the City of Thunder Bay. Why is that the case? Well, first of all, how you count matters, and I'm not sure how that counting in the questionnaire was done, but also there are few corporations in Canada that are as diverse as a municipality. And as I mentioned earlier, as a single tier, the City of Thunder Bay delivers a wide swath of services, wider than many other municipalities. These services are all very different, and they require different spans of leadership. So the span of leadership is the ratio between a manager and the workers, for lack of a better term. So the span of leadership. And there is no firm rule about what that span of leadership is or ought to be. And in fact, in these different workplaces, it is different. For example, in emergency services, you have high risk and independent environments. And you compare that to other environments like the professional services that are working straight days and have high accountability to their professional body. These are very different workplaces. We have workplaces with casual workers, students, who require a higher level of supervision than a professional who is accountable to a professional body. It depends on the type of workplace, the level of leadership or the span of leadership that is necessary, and it's widely varied. I think a general rule of thumb for the City of Thunder Bay is that our span of leadership is about 1 to 10, but that is arguable. It depends on how you count, and it's certainly not a quantitative assessment. As for what we're doing to looking at the levels of management, we watch it every year. We review it every year. We're constantly changing and looking at our levels of management. And in fact, two more things here under this. We have not expanded the numbers of management over the past few years. I'm not saying that's not going to happen in the future. Also, we watch carefully when there's a vacancy. We work to see if that position needs to be filled, and sometimes it has not been filled, a vacant position in management. Concurrently, we have changed reporting processes, changed risk management issues, changed levels of accountability to the province and other areas like health and safety that require management or leadership work. So this is a dynamic and fluid situation, and we're always adjusting. And finally, City Council directed me in the last year to do a city manager's review process for all hiring, not just limited to management, and we did realize some savings in that process.
We have no new questions. That's it for questions this evening.
Okay, then let's give Chair Bentz the final word, and then we'll close off from there.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Gale. Well, first, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Gale, and Ms. Evans for your professionalism and the way you've handled tonight's questions. I found the answers very informative, and that goes for all staff. Thank you, all staff that participated tonight. Excellent information. I'm always impressed. I just like to let the community know I'm impressed by our administrative staff. They're very professional and very competent people. So I just want you to know that out there. I'd also like to thank the clerk's office that helped us put together tonight's presentation and get us on air and do all those things behind the scenes that most people don't really realize what's going on back there, but there's a lot of work to get all this together. So we'd like to thank them. And of course, I'd like to thank you, the viewer and the citizen, for tuning in tonight and engaging. And just know that we're here to answer your questions, not only on nights like tonight, but I'm never further than a phone call away. And that goes for most counselors, if not all counselors. So reach out if you have questions. We're here to help. We're here to answer your questions and make the process as transparent as possible. So thank you all, and have a great evening.